Welcome to The Empowerment Show, a weekly podcast call-in show that's here to enrich and educate the community of beautiful Northeast Pennsylvania and its surrounding areas. Hosted by Kendall Stevenson. With co-host Shaquana Terry. Tonight we are joined by Hey DJ Steve.
The opinions expressed on the radio program by the host, co-host, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Genesis Radio, www.genesisradio.com, Genesis Radio's owners, management, or affiliates.
Speak up, speak louder.
Good evening and welcome to GenesisRadio.com. My name is Kendall Stevenson and I'm the host of The Empowerment Show. Always unity in the community. We make sure we stay part of that. This evening we got a young man that's coming on and he's better known as Hey DJ Steve or DJ Hey Steve. All right, I got to get it right.
Hey DJ Steve.
I just like to call you Steve, really, because there's so much more to you than just being a DJ. That's just something that you do. So, what name would you like to go by, young man?
Well, for this show, you can just call me Steve.
All right, Steve, good to go. As I was telling the audience that there's a lot more to Steve than meets the eye. So I understand you DJ. So what else is it that you do?
Well, first, I want to thank you and your engineer for allowing me to come and participate in this show. It's always important that whether, whether in family or friendship, traveling this earth, communication is key. So, during, many times of meeting you, Brother Kendall, I've appreciated our conversations and enlightenments as far as, what we have in common, right? So, when I walk this world, I do a lot because I'm a big fan of giving back. What I mean by giving back, it's not always material. Sometimes it's just, saying hello to someone just to make their day a little bit better, right? And that's where, I found the love of DJing because, many DJs that I've grown up with, the first line of contact is communication. What do you need? What do you want to hear? Who are you? What type of folks? All those things. So that tenured me in my growth as a young man into an adult to be able to speak to people and just find out what's in common. Everything else will fall into place, So to answer your question, by day, I'm what you call a regional solutions consultant. I've been an information technology engineer for many years with a private company in New Jersey, and still doing my thing there, and as a DJ, I've been doing that for, I'll say, most of my teenage and adult life, so that's it, wrapped up in a little bit of a bundle as to what I do.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this commercial that comes on television where they have it's about the eyeglasses with the phone, and they got the young lady there, and she's doing taxes or whatever kind of work she does, and then all of a sudden, it's the end of the day, she switched around, and now she's starting to spin records. I don't know if
that's it.
But
that's it. That's my life.
You from 9 to 5, you wear the Superman cape, and when you're done with that, you take off the cape and you become a DJ.
Yeah, you do what you love, and I'm grateful that both environments I enjoy it, so I don't really consider it work. I do recognize the work in it, but I don't consider it work. I enjoy what I do.
So as a information technology technologist, what exactly is that you do?
So currently, what I do, I help businesses from medium business to enterprise business find solutions to automate process that they may need to change from manual to automation. Um, Anything from like workflows, you have a piece of paper in your hand. What do you do with that piece of paper? Sometimes it just needs someone to review it. Sometimes you need someone to review it and approve it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of information in businesses, it touches many folks, and many folks either have their opinion about it or it just gets filed. There's so many avenues to solutions. My job is to listen, find out what they specifically need, what their pain points are, and then I develop a solution that's going to help that business
So this
turn
is
from a manual process to a more automation process.
so this has been part of your passion process, if I want to say, from the time of being a teenager.
Well, not necessarily. Going back to my younger days, I have a degree as a mechanical engineer, and that's where the love started. Finding out how things work. So a mechanical engineer, what we're trained to do is to take a piece of technology, understand that technology, how it's working for the people, how it's not working for the people, and then over time design a new and improved product. So that's where my degree come in at. But over time, hardware has been turning into software. We had typewriters, we had calculators, we had all types of things to do fundamental results.
We had computer key punch cards.
That's right. That's right.
And
IBM had those little dip
how about
cards.
this one? The transition between the typewriter and the computer was the prototype. Remember the prototype? It was a typewriter that actually had a monitor on it.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
And it had a little, but it still had a ribbon in it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
disc,
yeah.
And it came in a
and
little
disc.
case that you had to carry. It was a
Prototype.
The word process. The word processor.
That's right. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Word processor. That's what it was. That's
Yeah.
like one of the
Yeah,
first
so,
ones.
yeah,
I used to
so
service-
those are the things. I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I said I used to service those prototypes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work on it. Matter of fact, one of my first jobs that I worked, my job title was a computer, and I was working for Jordache, if you remember the jeans, Jordache jeans, and my job was mostly what they call polling. So, well, you're in technology. I used to use the magnetic drives, just tandem magnetic drives, and that's where we used to back up information, and we used a lot of job control languages to move information from one place or another. But that's for another time. That's like really, really ancient history. I just wanted to introduce you to the brother that walked in the door. His name is Ronald Gates, and he does have a show here. It's called Reasons for Reasons. Now, I asked you two brothers to come in this evening, and I wanted to know what your credentials are, of course. But I asked you guys to come in because I wanted to hear about, maybe you can understand, I can't. Why are black men, African-American men, why do they have so much of an issue when it comes to Kamala Harris becoming president? Now, I just want to state this, is that I've spoken to quite a few young men, and a lot of what I hear is disinformation, one, and two, they're not willing to do the research. So, and these are the young people that are not only young, I mean, I've talked to some older people, and they African Americans have come back with that stigma, like we don't trust, because of that Willie Lynch shit, right? We don't trust each other. So here it is now. We got a sister that's going and trying to go into one of the highest office in the land, but yet we scrutinize her more than we've done any politician. I have never seen the way our people are going after this woman with all the questioning and how does she do this and what does she do that. I've never seen them question a politician the way they're doing her. I'm sorry, maybe it's just me. What do you think?
Well, I think that, as you said, some of it, or maybe a lot of it, is misinformation. And I think that some of the criticism is silly, right? That she was a prosecutor and she was the attorney general and she prosecuted black men. Well, realistically, a lot of crimes black men commit typically against other black people.
Yeah, well, that's black on black, just like if they were Chinese, it'd be
Right.
Chinese on Chinese. If they were Spanish,
Mhm.
white. So
Right.
yeah, that black on black thing, that's based on ethnicity, not so much ethnicity, but what community you come from. So if you come from a Chinese community, then you're
Mhm.
gonna have Chinese on Chinese crime.
Mhm.
If you come from a white community, you're gonna have white on white crime.
Mhm.
So when people use that phrase "black on black crime," it's like we're gangsters and we're out shooting each other in the street or something, and we're the only ones that do it. That's how it makes it sound like we're the only ones that have crime in our neighborhood.
Well, it's just more misinformation. But, for them to be upset about that, understand that black people, hardworking people in black communities have a right to feel safe in their homes, should have a right for the children to go out and play in relative safety. And when you have some of our young men who are misguided, who have a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge of self, they're destructive.
Right.
So for her to prosecute these guys, I have no problem with that. I think that for some, I think their criticism is more well-founded in the fact that I'm a little skeptical about Kamala for one reason. And that is, will she continue the Biden foreign policy as it relates to really Africa and what's called the Middle East?
Did you? I'm sorry, Steve. I'm gonna bring you right back in, okay, brother? But
I'm here.
Right.
I'm
Did you
listening.
did you listen to Biden's speech as he left out today?
I listened to his presentation yesterday at the UN.
At the UN, right.
Right.
So here it is. One of the things that he did mention was Sudan.
Mhm.
So it's not as though Sudan wasn't forgotten about. And when he said it, he let them know that we also distribute food
Mhm.
and resources and so on and so on
Mhm.
to Sudan. Unfortunately, it doesn't make big news. It's not like Israel. The Israel is so big and hot because the media makes it every day, every day, every day.
Mhm.
And they don't mention places like the Congo, or they don't mention places like Sudan.
Mhm.
So to answer that question, I think she will, because he did groom her. For 4 years, he's been grooming her.
So you think she's going to continue his policy?
I not all of his policy. Of course, she's going to have her own too.
Mhm.
And she may not agree with all of his policies. I don't know. She's not going to come out and say, I don't agree with this. You wouldn't do that. You and me, we boys, right?
Mhm.
Right? I'm getting ready to take your spot. I'm going to tell you, I don't like what he did. So that's not going to happen. Now,
Well,
when I get in there, I'm going to implement my own.
Mhm. Well, I think that the problem is that the policy that Biden and the U.S. has been pursuing in that region has been destructive, right? For Africa. Now, look, there are 7 continents, right? What continent does Israel sit on? Israel's on Africa.
Mhm.
You can walk from Palestine, which is Israel, straight into Egypt, which clearly is the African continent. So Israel sits on Africa, and they created this fictitious region called the Middle East. Rather than say this is part of the African continent, they came with this whole Middle East thing.
Mhm.
And the problem is that the Middle East, that area of Africa, has been destabilized for years. And the situation is getting worse. Now we saw this, not war, but a genocide in Gaza. And now Israel has begun to bomb in Lebanon. So this situation is widening. And as Biden was speaking the other day, American troops are on the move going into the region in anticipation of Iran responding to Israel's aggression.
Well, they are a NATO country, so you're still gonna protect. But it wasn't just the American troops that also moved in; it was from other nations as well.
Understandable,
Right,
but
right.
what we're doing is we're bringing foreign troops into Africa, and Africa has been destabilized by foreign troops going back centuries, right?
Centuries, we know that.
So now to bring them back into Africa, what are we doing to this region, right? And for myself, I have children, right? 2 kids, both of which are fighting age or eligible to be drafted.
Just not to cut you like that.
Sure,
I
sure.
just want to add this. So you said this was an issue that maybe you have with Kamala because you didn't know left or right. My question is, here we're going to throw it on the other side. So what happens if he gets into office?
Okay, if he gets into office, okay, I look at it like this. The powers that be, not necessarily Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, but the powers that be, right? I'm talking about the people who spend $5,000 or $25,000 a plate to eat some rubber chicken, right? These are the people that heavily invest in politicians, right? And these are the people who are going to shape the agenda of the presidency and also the legislature. So what happens is these folks are making billions of dollars.
All right.
Just look at the record profits that ExxonMobil is posting and all of these other corporations. Why? Because they're profiting. They're war profiteers.
Yeah, of course, but they've always been.
Right. But what happens is you want to profit. I don't have a problem with that as long as it doesn't hurt me. But now, in order for you to continue to make profits, well, you're saying that Iran is a problem. So that means that American sons and daughters may have to go off to fight another disastrous war in this part of Africa.
I mean, the way things have gone with this country and pretty much the world, we pretty much have a war every 10 years. Now, we skipped maybe a few, maybe less, but on average, about every 10 years, this country's going to war with somebody or something. And I don't know if it's because maybe there's too many people on the planet, and this is a good way to to minimize the amount of people. I don't know, but what I do know, I would say that if Trump got into office, I think we're going to be going to war.
I think if Trump gets into office, I think it is more likely to see civil war as opposed to a global conflict. You know, Trump has said, he made it perfectly clear that he said in a statement that he has every right to go after them.
Right.
He talked about getting revenge. So what does that look like? You know, that looks like probably people being arrested, right? Who oppose him.
I mean, like they're going after the dog and cat killers, and that the people, right? Like his people now are in Springfield, and what are they carrying, AKs and whatnot, and they're going after anybody that they assume is Haitian, because that could be you, or that could be me.
Any of us.
Anybody that wear this color, for they, angry mob, they all they know is your color, and they take you out based on some lies.
Right.
Let me just give Steve an opportunity to chime in. Steve, so you've been listening to the conversation, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. So I just want you to chime in. I like to get your point of view on the situation. There were a couple of questions that were posed, and one of them was, if you break it down, why would you vote for Kamala Harris?
Well, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I voted Republican for much of my adult life up until Trump, only because I'm a believer in us grasping responsibility within ourselves, right? Coming together in leadership with development, media representation, unity, collaboration, promoting health and wellness. And I used to have this conversation with my dad. My dad was a Democrat, so he and I would always talk. I mean, I'm not going to label him a Democrat. He was flexible, but he voted mainly on the Democratic ticket. But we would have great conversations as to what we can do as a people. So, every day, and I don't think either one of us will solve these issues in our lifetime, but year after year, we tend to speak about how the president should run this country. And what I think, it starts at a core. It starts with us. If we want to see our Black continent, our Black nature foster strong culturally and identify where our weaknesses are, where our strengths are, economically, I think we will be awesome. Because how we hustle and get our day-to-day grind on, men and women, and still come on top with, making businesses and music, and I mean, the list can go, inventions, things of that nature. Just imagine if we stop saying the president should do this, but we as a people should think like we're optional to become president. After Obama, that's when it became a light bulb. Oh, I can do this. So now you got a little bit of everybody trying to run for president now. But prior to President Obama, everybody was kind of in their place. Everybody knew their zone. So they put people in places to speak for them. But the point that I'm making is, and I hear Brother Gates' passion, as to
Brother Yates.
Because say one more time.
Brother Yates.
Yates. I'm sorry. I thought it was Gates.
Yikes. That's all right, brother.
So, I think within our community, I can't talk for Asian, I can't talk for the Latino, I can't talk for whites, I can talk for Black people. I've been Black all my life. We've been Black all our life.
Right.
But I think in order for us to fix and set an example for our African continent and everything else in between, we need to start building political power within our community and start advocating the way I've seen just this Saturday with those young women who raise money to support, cancer treatments and, different in life, just to build people up. And that's just one section.
Steve, just to let you know, we have been doing this. Just what you said. I mean, even prior to Obama, even back in the 60s, even during segregation, we as a people, we came together and we actually started building things. I think a lot of the issue is, as far as education with us is concerned, happened even before then, because during Reconstruction, you had this group called Women for Liberties or something like that. We allowed the Confederacy to say how we're going to be educated. In other words,
it's a lot of intimidation. A lot of people, and it goes in our history as well. Like you said, we have been doing it.
That has grown and grown. And really, like I was telling my man, after integration, we became a little bit more segregated amongst ourselves. So that makes
not necessarily, brother. Not necessarily.
A lot of us don't even trust each other anymore.
But here's the deal.
We don't trust each other. We look at each other and we have this disdain or this trust for each other.
So that has to come from somewhere, right? That generational healing is very limited, and brother, trust me, I've had many a conversation with my dad, my granddad on this very topic.
Right.
So each generation has to go through some type of healing, but what ends up happening is we overlap, as if one generation was better than the other, instead of merging, bringing solidarity to those different. What are the differences? Like today, I grew up replacing batteries in my radio and, the C, the D battery, all those things. You talk to Gen Z kids now, they don't even know what a D battery is. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by things overlapping. We need to start encouraging both generations, old and new, to find out what we have in common, respect what Gen Z has to offer, because they like it quick, they like it fast, they want to get things done now, and then respect what we built to give them the opportunity to get those things quick, fast, and now. So it's all about focus, it's all about sharing goals, it's all about collaboration. And like you said, we have been doing this, but we've been overlapping instead of merging and bringing things together. We're overlapping, and that's where a lot of communication.
Even going down that road, there are a lot of nuances that would go along with that. And one of the things that I have learned is that there's no quick answer for complicated questions. So this
will be
right. So this is becoming like it's a complicated question, if another word, because we can say we like to do all of these things, but there's obstacles involved. Most of the Z, they don't watch television; they watch YouTube. A lot of the people today, they're watching social media. They're learning from social media. So while you're even on the social media, you got these Russian bots that will give out a whole lot of disinformation, and the people are believing it. The Z's, as you call, are believing it, which is why we're having a whole lot of confusion and problems now, because of a lot of disinformation that, again, are separating us. Even as families, you got people that are arguing with each other either Trump or within the whole family, that now that they want to break away from each other. So this whole thing is causing a real problem.
So yeah, but see, this is why I'm in the field that I am in, as a professional. I hear the problems, right? But I don't like to linger on the problems. I want to figure out how we can identify those problems and how we can resolve those problems. Because I'm telling you what, Brother Kenny, if you look at our history, as bad as it was for us during slavery, we came together. We did what we had to do. We protected each other when we could. We fed each other. We took care of kids that didn't belong to us. We did a whole lot. And now that we don't have that rock on our shoulders forcing us to commit to white man's whatever labor, as they may call it.
So emulate.
We dropped the ball in maintaining that structure. It's like now that we're free, now we get to dance and forget about what the neighbor down the street is doing or having issues with.
Remember that freedom is not free. Freedom comes.
There you go.
But with that said, I got to do this here. Again, you tune in to GenesisRadio.com. My name is Kendall, and this is the Empowerment Show. If you'd like to tune in and give us a call, that would be 888-304-4401. I got to give my man an opportunity to chime in. I asked him to come down, and it's because I respect what he has to say and what he has to bring to the table and offer. So I'm going to give him that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Brother Kendall. And I agree with what Brother Steve just said about, I guess, us dropping the ball. If you look at America generationally, every generation did better than the generation before it.
Okay.
That changed probably in the 90s, 2000s, right? You saw where there was a change. Well, now you have kids graduated from colleges and universities going back home because the job market simply does not support, students entering the job market. And one thing that was a major blow to Black people and set us back was the end of segregation. See, when we were segregated, we couldn't go to your hospital. We had our own.
Right.
We couldn't use your gas station. We had our own. So we had thriving communities. We were isolated, but we had our own thriving communities. Well, as soon as legislation was signed ending segregation, we no longer went to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson to buy clothes. We went to Macy's.
That's right.
So our community suffered, and they're still suffering today. We lost our economic base. Not only do we lose our economic base, we lost our moral compass. Right. Something that was stressed, by our elders, right? That we respect ourselves, we respect nature, we respect one another, we respect our communities. We've lost that. And we're not going to find the answers politically, right? Those are things that we have to deal with internally.
Right, because what we have done is that we have allowed our oppressors to educate us and our children. Malcolm X said it perfectly. We have to be a people to at least educate ourselves. So if you look, I tell people all the time, especially Black people, if you got a problem with the education system, people say, yes, we need to redo it. We need to get rid of it, throw it out. Okay, see, I'm not into throwing out the baby in the bathwater. Fix it. And you know how I got a real simple solution. How about you show up at the PTA meetings? How about you find out who's on the board and start maybe getting yourself on the board? And this way, maybe you'll have a voice so that when they come along and say, well, we want to ban books in your school, you're there. Hell no, that's not going to happen. If you want to protect your children, then you have to get involved in what they do.
Yeah. So I just want to just chime in a little bit because I really appreciate this topic passionately. If you remember with us growing up, we had cartoons that encouraged us to learn more, talk more, see what our differences are. We had commercials that, showed the Black pride, the Afro sheen, the women, stepping up, becoming doctors and so on. I think one of the things that we need to make part of our strengthening empowerment is our history. And I'm not just talking about slavery. We had teachers, we had scientists, we had inventors, we had so many people, doing well in schools, churches, community, everywhere. Those are the people we need to identify and then find that unity with folks that are doing just that today. That's a start for us, because a lot of these kids today, and that's what you were saying, I kind of disagree when you say Black people don't trust one another. That's a small group of folks that are in it for themselves. But I'm grateful and I'm blessed to say that I've traveled to see Black people coming together, as me being a stranger in another country, but still embracing me, to come into your home, to have dinner, meet your family for the first time. That's big.
Well,
So I can't.
You just said a key word, another country.
Yeah, but even here, I met you, Kendall. There was no reason for me not to trust you.
I'm not into mental slavery, so I can learn how to trust you right away.
So you made my point.
A lot of us don't trust each other right off the bat.
Right, but you just made my point, because that's a small group of folks that don't trust one another. But people like you and I, brother, say Yates here, Terry, we come together. We collaborate. What's your specialty? Everybody has a specialty. Somebody has something to bring to the table. That's what we do. But we can't say, Black people don't trust one another. Those are small groups of people for whatever reason.
You're right. I'm generalizing, but
for whatever reason, they may have had a trauma issue. Who knows? I don't know.
Well,
it's up to us to show better.
This is what I see. I see things like somebody may call a plumber, and they rather take the white plumber over the Black plumber. I've seen that happen.
I'm guilty.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen things like that happen. So to me, that's kind of like part of that conditioning that we went through. I mean, at one time it was Jim Crow, and now we call it Jim Crow Esquire, because he grew up. Now he wears suits and ties. He's learned how to manipulate you a lot better. With this Willie Lynch thing, I got to keep going back to it, because a lot of things that we talk about, it really comes out of that Willie Lynch paper stuff, man, where we segregate ourselves, brother from brother, sister against sister, within the family. And I was explaining to you, I agree that we have issues individually, but it's got to come to a point where we got to come together as a family. The family is the strongest thing known to man, the strongest organization known to man. The way we got it now, we got our women separated from our men. You got the women who are starting to reach certain heights and pinnacle, and the men are trying to pull them back down, and they feel as though the Black women have left them behind, and it's causing this friction. But how about the rest of the family? You need both the man and the woman to create this family.
Well, you know something? Part of the criticism directed toward Kamala Harris, and not just Kamala Harris, women in general in this country. This country, yes. America, has a legacy of misogyny.
Yes.
Right? And that is something that is not normal for Black people. And I say that because in Africa, we had Black women that sat on the throne.
That's right.
By themselves, right? There was no king. There was the queen, and some of them we know quite well. And there was no misogyny. There was no chauvinism. That is something we learned, throughout our sojourn.
From the Europeans.
Yes, on a plantation, right? So now we have developed that. So now we are holding back our women. We are distrustful of our women. We are in competition with our women. And yes, the family unit breaks down when mom and dad can't come together. The children can't come together. The community cannot unite. And just one more thing I'd like to say. We talk about political power. In this country, we've never had political power. We needed, because we had unity. So after slavery ended, We went out and we built the HBCUs.
Yeah, during the Reconstruction era.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We went out and we built the HBCUs. We went out, we built places like the Black Wall Street all across this nation. We didn't do it using the political structure because it wasn't available to us.
Well, what we didn't utilize on other. We didn't wait for someone else to provide us with the resources to do what we want.
we did.
We
did
didn't
on our
wait
own.
for someone else to come along to educate our children.
Right.
Now, see, we had people who wanted to aspire to be educators, and they got their little schoolhouse. They're the ones that taught our children, but it was us teaching us. And again, like Malcolm X said, if you allow the oppressors to teach your children, you should be the one teaching your children. I say it depends on your level of education, but you still can teach your children who they are and where they sit on this world, where they sit at in this world. Would you agree, Steve?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. You know, Black people, we just need to do what we're doing now, investing in each other. It doesn't always have to be financial gain. You know, conversation. You know, what can we bring to the table? I'm living in your community, on your street, brother Kendall, and I see that, you know, you may have gotten laid off from work, or maybe, you know, you have something important to do that you can't be around for your family temporarily. Hey, brother Steve, can you would you mind doing my lawn this week? You know, something meatier, but community, bring wealth, redistribute wealth within each other. That's what I'm all about, you know, and I'll always do my small part, you know, and in doing so, it has come back to me in great deeds, you know, people remembering me, you know, God blessing me with, you know, different situations, meeting you guys, you know, it's not,
Well,
you always hear women say, I can't find a good man, you know, but I see three right here, you know what I'm saying? And we may be married, but it's not the point. The point is, if you put yourself in a position where you can be around good people, you will find good things. But if you mix it up and you want to be with the people that don't trust one another and want to do foolishness versus people who want to take that chance. So yeah, you mentioned earlier, we've gotten burnt. I said I was guilty. You know, I supported a guy. I gave him a few $100 to take care of a job. He took that $100, he started it and disappeared. But did it stop me from working with Black folks? No. It just said, Steve, next time you need something like that, we're going to involve a Black person. We're going to do some what? We're going to investigate. We're going to search around, see who has the best price, who has the work ethic, right?
Right.
So, you know, it happens. It's not to say I can't find a Black person to do the job well. It's just that where I was at, it was limited. So I ended up going into another environment to get the job done, you know, but I would never leave my Black people behind just because that idiot ran away with my few $100, you know. So
well, I just said about the Black person, about us not trusting each other, but honestly, I think Martin Luther King said it best, that we have to judge each other by the content of our character. But I'm going to tell you, we even growing up as a kid, man, I remember going out for my first job interview. I guess I had to be about 14 or 15 years old at the time. And my mother tells me, she says, make sure you act your age and not your color. So the generation prior to us was already taught to hate themselves, to hate the color Black. And then they put that on people like me, because there's a lot of people in my age group that hate themselves. They hate anybody that looks like them. I know you're not one of them. I'm not one of them. He's not one of them, because we as what the man say, we're woke, and woke mean that you're not asleep. You're not in a conscious state. So we're growing, and we'll be the ones to teach other people, other young men, with the things that they need to know in order for them to grow and to become successful, and to again bring that family unit back together. That's the community that we need to bring back together. Because once that family is strong, man, we're gonna have a strong community. Without a doubt.
And that's one of the reasons why I like this show, because you guys advocate for, you know, different conversations. And like I said earlier, mental healing is a big thing. You don't have to be sick to have mental health. We all can use mental health. We have our bad days. We have our tough days. And just someone to come in and just say, yo, everything is going to be all right. Here's a couple of pieces of nuggets that we can talk about to help that situation. So mental healing goes a long way. Like I said, you don't have to have trauma to say that you need healing, but people need to sit down and really, communicate, experience each other in these conversations. But too often we put sexualism in our conversation rather than, life.
And those are taught behaviors.
Care,
Those are
emotional well-being, right? Anger.
Right. Look, I can remember when I was a kid when we watched the movie Superfly. And when we came out the movie Superfly, the kids, they always wanted to emulate what they saw on the screen. So these kids here came out to watch a Superfly, and the first word came out their mouth was niggas. The next one they wanted to be was a pimp and hustler, because Superfly was a pimp, he was a hustler, a drug dealer, but he was the star of the movie. He in the movie were the good guys, and the bad guys were the police. So that kind of, to me, kind of got the ball rolling when we start talking about exploitation films. I think they kind of got the ball rolling on a lot of things, because during the 70s and the 80s, people changed their mind about a lot of things. It wasn't about coming together. It started becoming more about the individual self, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think those what are called black exploitation films, it kind of showed the decline of the black community, right? We had Dr. King, we had Malcolm X, we had Marcus Garvey. So we had these folks in the black community, right, that wanted to elevate our thinking and make us a better people and bring us together. Well, then black exploitation films came out, and we started seeing the drug dealer, the pusher, the pimp. And rather than saying, well, I want to be like Dr. King, now I want to be like, Priest.
Yeah,
right?
Priest.
I want to be like him. I want to drive the big car. I want to wear the fancy clothes, right? So I can get attention. So that showed the decline of the black community, the start of the decline. But we've fallen so low. It's like, where is the stopping point?
No, we tried to come back though. I must say, in the 70s and in the early 80s, the rappers, they came up with a lot of positive messages, man. With the brother KRS and a Tribe Called Quest and what's the other one? Terminator X. I mean, they tried to bring some consciousness back in, but again, the man came down with that money. Said, look here, you start gonna do that, I want you to do this.
Right.
We took the money. We took the money, and we did it. It's like here's another thing. I blame them for taking the money, because they still could have made music, and the music would have been great. It would have sold. They would have made a lot of money. You don't have to bring your people down to do that, right? And I just hate that they did. I really did, because it became like this chain, like a domino effect. Right. Then we talk about people like the Jewish community. Do you think that you could have gotten anyone in the Jewish community to get behind a microphone and call their women bitches and hoes and hold their hand up for a paper? And how about this? How about the record called what do they call Kikes? Right? Kikes with an attitude. Just imagine that, right? That's not going to happen.
It's not.
Well, we did have people that held our people accountable. Dr. Martin Luther King being one of them. Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X,
Dr. Reverend, what's his name? Reverend Al Sharpton.
Yeah, we have held people accountable. What ends up happening, you see, each time we build ourselves up, if you look again, we go back to our history, and there's plenty of it. We build ourselves up, we shine. Nobody can touch our shit. But you know what ends up happening? Somebody comes into that mix with a bundle of cash. Come with me. I'll take care of you. You won't have to worry about anything again if you do this. And once we can stop that intrusion and focus on our unity, our solidarity, dude, nothing could stop it. We'd be one powerful people. We already got the continent of Africa. Africa is bigger than most of these countries put together, but on the map they show it as being the smallest continent in the world.
No, Africa has issues too. I mean, like I said,
it does.
And they
But
they,
again,
they were colonized they long before they got to America, long before the
yeah.
French and everybody else the
But that was a plan.
all of these
That was
people
always a plan.
they stepped into Africa and kind of divided Africa up and made. Hey, look, you go to Africa now, right now, today, and you go to Ghana. Do you know what the official language is in Ghana?
English.
English. In an African country, English is the official language, not an African language. So they've already been there. They colonized it. They did what they want. Look, you can go throughout Africa and you can find places like, I don't know, Victoria Falls in Africa. So they've already
It's all European based.
They've messed up Africa really bad. And us as African Americans, I really feel in this country, we're kind of like a lost tribe. Okay, because a lot of a lot of Africans do not claim us as being part of what they are. And then you come to America and they don't want you to be American. So we're kind of like in that middle there.
Yeah, a lot of us are mixed. You know, we got the European blood, we got the Indian blood.
The whole world is mixed up. But I'm saying us as African Americans, of course, we're definitely mixed. That slave master, he made sure he mixed us up. He started integration long time ago.
But you know something?
Mm-hmm.
You just made a very valid point. You said Africa is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my problem with our government and our foreign policy, right? Because even when Obama was president, one of the things he did in Africa, he expanded AFRICOM, putting more troops, more bases into Africa, right? That is not helping Africa.
Nope.
What Africa needs is to be left alone and access to its own resources, right? Once that happens, then you're not talking about poverty in Africa. You're not talking about people living where there's no clean water, where there's no health care. Africa, potentially trillions of dollars in just resources alone, right? Cell phone technology coming from Africa, diamonds, gold, and the list goes on and on and on. But who controls it? And the problem is our government is basically, it's a colonial government, right? America was part of the colonial powers, right? They say, they're not going to come out and say that because they'll say, well, it was the English, the French. But yeah, we colonized places as well, right? And what we're doing is we're preventing our country, Africa, from moving forward and holding it back. And I have a problem voting for someone, a Black person, who is going to do just as much damage to Africa as a continent than the other man.
Well, like I said before, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris because I think we need to protect our sisters. Now, politicians, what I've learned from hanging around politicians, you got to make them do stuff. You got to show up. You got to show up at the town hall meetings. You got to show up at the fundraisers. You got to show up when they're having any type of events because they don't know you. They don't know what your problem is because they don't hear from you. The only time a lot of Black people get heard is because they complain to each other and not actually get involved. I had a brother that was complaining to me constantly about he didn't like the way the politics was run. So you know what I tell him? Why don't you run for office? He don't want to do that. So if we're not going to get involved in stuff, my mother used to say, excuse my French, shit or get off the pot.
You know, that works on a local level, right? But on a larger level, I think it's all about economics, right? And we need to come together and collectivize, right? We need money. And that's what America understands, right? You know, during segregation, they didn't really want us coming into their stores. But then the light bulb went up and says, wait a minute, how much economic activity is flowing through the Black community? And when they realized that, oh, wait a minute, we got to get those pennies. You ever see that movie, American Hoodlum?
Yeah.
It was Dutch, right?
Yeah.
He said, wait a minute, those, what he called nigger pennies up in Harlem, amounted to millions of dollars a year. flowing through Harlem, right? So he is saying, wait a minute, I got to get that money. You know, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to control the numbers racket in Harlem. So, you know, what we need to do is come together. We need money. And money, realistically, it buys political power, right? Because every politician across the board, I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on, whether you wear red or blue, every one of them will say almost to a person, we support Israel, right? And we are going to continue to support Israel economically, militarily, and any other way Israel deems necessary. Right? Why Israel? Why not the other countries in the region? Why Israel? Why are we constantly saying that Iran is a problem? What has Iran done to us?
Us as black people?
To America, period.
Oh, I don't know. I can't even speak. You know, I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know that.
Well,
part of the excuse. I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
In 1952, right, the U.S. government overthrew the president, the democratically elected president of Iran, and put in place the Shah.
So this is what we're gonna do here. We like to say thank you guys for tuning in, Steve, Brother Yates. But it's time to roll up and wrap up. So we're gonna have a part 2. You guys down for a part 2 of discussion?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, if it's I have to speak to you offline. I'm going to be traveling next week, so I may not be around. I think I'll be in Cincinnati next Wednesday. If you're looking for next Wednesday, I should be back in my hotel room this time.
Well, we'll chat offline about that.
All right, cool.
Right. So thank you, viewing audience, for tuning in to GenesisRadio.com. Again, my name is Kendall Stevenson, and this is the Empowerment Show, part of Unity in the Community. The brothers that I brought on, they actually speak truth to power. So that will cause some action. So hopefully we get people a better understanding as to what's going on, and with politically and us as African Americans, because we try to give you 3 different points of view. So again, my name is Kendall Stevenson, the Empowerment Show, and peace. Till next week, we're out.
Peace.
Pleasure chatting with you guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. If you would like to be a guest on the show or want to show us some support, visit us online at www.paempowermentshow.com.